Your stomach wakes you up before the light does. Not the kind of hunger that makes you wonder what to have for breakfast. The kind that makes every step feel heavier. The kind that turns every smell into a distraction. The kind that reminds you your body is running out of fuel. You haven't eaten in nearly 2 days. For most of human history, this wasn't an unusual emergency. It was a recurring reality. Long before supermarkets, farms, and refrigerators, our ancestors lived in a world where finding food was never guaranteed. Every morning began with the same question: what can we find before hunger finds us first? Imagine standing on an African savanna 50,000 years ago. The rainy season ended months ago. The grass is dry beneath your feet. The air is already warming. Around you stands a small group of perhaps 20 people, children, hunters, elders, and mothers carrying infants. Nobody talks much. Everyone is thinking about food. The group begins walking, not because they know where food is, because standing still won't find any. This is where many modern ideas about prehistory go wrong. Movies teach us to imagine mammoth hunts and heroic warriors. But most survival wasn't won through spectacular hunts, it was won through knowledge. Knowledge of where food might be hiding, knowledge of what others overlooked, knowledge passed from one generation to the next. Hours later, one woman suddenly kneels and begins digging. At first, it seems pointless. The ground is hard and dry, but she keeps going. Then her digging stick strikes something. A root, a large underground tuber. Dirty, rough, unremarkable, yet everyone nearby smiles. Because hidden beneath the soil is stored energy. Calories, life. This may not sound exciting, but roots and tubers were among the most reliable foods available to many hunter-gatherer societies. Anthropologist Richard Lee discovered something surprising while studying the Ju-Huanzi people of the Kalahari Desert. Many outsiders assumed hunting supplied most of their food. In reality, gathered plant foods often provided a large share of daily calories. A hunter can return empty-handed. A root cannot run away. That simple fact may have helped countless humans survive. The group spends hours collecting what they can. Some roots are eaten immediately, others are saved for later. But everyone understands the truth: these roots are buying time. Nothing more. By afternoon, the landscape seems empty again. The soil grows harder. The roots become scarce. Then a young boy points toward a fallen tree. At first glance, it looks worthless. The trunk is rotting. Its bark is peeling away. One side has collapsed into the dirt, yet several adults immediately move toward it. Not because they are curious, because they see possibility. They begin tearing apart the decaying wood. Dark cavities appear. Then something starts moving. Hundreds of pale larvae squirm beneath the surface. Fat grubs, beetle larvae, soft-bodied insects packed with nutrients. The adults begin collecting them immediately. To many modern people, this sounds disgusting. To ancient humans, it was a lucky discovery. And here's the surprising part. Eating insects may have been far more normal throughout human history than refusing them. Researchers have documented insect consumption across Africa, Asia, Australia, and the Americas. Many species contain impressive amounts of protein and fat. More importantly, they are reliable. You don't need to outrun them. You don't need sophisticated weapons. You simply need to know where to look. And that may have been humanity's greatest advantage. Not strength, not speed, knowledge. A grandmother teaching a child which roots are edible. An elder explaining where insects hide after rain. A hunter showing younger members how to read tracks. Every lesson increased the group's chances of survival. Food wasn't just found, it was remembered. As evening arrives, the group gathers around a small fire. The meal is modest: a few roots, a handful of insects, enough to survive another day. But tomorrow brings a bigger challenge, because there is one food source so valuable that ancient humans were willing to smash apart entire skeletons to reach it. The next morning, the group discovers a carcass. Most of the meat is gone. Predators got there first. At first glance, it seems useless, but the hunters aren't looking at the missing flesh. They're looking at the bones. Back at camp, a long bone is placed on a flat stone. Another stone rises, then comes the crack. The bone splits open. Inside is something pale and rich: bone marrow. Today, marrow is considered a delicacy in some restaurants. To starving humans, it may have been one of the most valuable foods on earth, because marrow contains what hunger desperately demands: fat, pure energy. Fat contains more than twice the calories of protein or carbohydrates. For people facing food shortages, that difference mattered enormously. Archaeologists have found evidence of marrow extraction across Africa, Europe, and Asia. Ancient animal bones frequently contain percussion marks, impact scars showing they were deliberately smashed open. Some archaeological sites contain thousands of fractured bones. The pattern is unmistakable. Ancient humans were extracting every calorie they possibly could. When survival is uncertain, waste becomes dangerous. Every root matters. Every insect matters. Every bone matters. And every discovery buys another day. Yet perhaps the most surprising part of this story comes later, because despite what many people imagine, prehistoric humans were not necessarily starving all the time. Anthropologist James Sussman spent years studying the Zhu Huanzi of southern Africa. What he found challenged many modern assumptions. Food shortages certainly occurred, droughts happened, resources fluctuated, but many hunter-gatherer societies also enjoyed remarkable dietary diversity. They ate roots, fruits, nuts, honey, insects, shellfish, multiple animal species. Dozens of food sources often existed within the same environment. If one failed, another might still be available. Flexibility became their insurance policy. Then agriculture arrived, and everything changed. At first, farming seemed revolutionary. Seeds could be planted, food could be stored, settlements could become permanent, populations could grow. For the first time, humans began producing food instead of simply finding it. The advantages were enormous, but so were the risks. Imagine an early farming village. Most families depend on the same crop. Year after year, the harvest arrives. Everything seems stable. Then one season, the rains fail, the crop dies. Suddenly, everyone faces the same problem at the same time. No backup harvest, no network of dozens of food sources, just empty fields. Agriculture eventually created civilizations, cities, writing, and the modern world. But the transition was not always an immediate improvement in nutrition. In some places, it may have made people more vulnerable before it made them more secure. Which brings us back to a bigger lesson. The story of ancient hunger is not really about food. It's about adaptation. When roots disappeared, humans found insects. When insects disappeared, they searched for marrow. When familiar foods failed, they experimented, observed, learned, and adapted. Again and again. That pattern appears throughout human history. Ice ages, droughts, migration, environmental change. Humans rarely survived because they were the strongest animals. They survived because they were the most adaptable. And pieces of that ancient world still live inside you, right now. Think about what happens when you're exhausted, stressed, or emotionally drained. What foods suddenly become appealing? Usually not lettuce, not celery. It's pizza, chocolate, bread, ice cream, foods rich in calories, foods rich in energy. Those cravings are not random. Your ancestors evolved in a world where calories were precious, a world where finding fat could mean surviving winter, a world where sweetness often signaled rare, energy-rich foods. Your brain learned those lessons. The world changed, the lessons remained, and that may explain far more about modern eating behavior than most people realize, which is why the story of ancient hunger still matters. Every craving, every growling stomach, every desire for comfort food connects you to a chain of human experience stretching back hundreds of thousands of years. The roots hidden beneath dry soil, the insects inside fallen logs, the marrow locked inside bones. Each one represents a solution discovered by people who refused to give up. People who kept searching, kept learning, kept adapting, long enough to become your ancestors. So the next time your stomach wakes you up before the light does, remember what that signal once meant. Today, it might send you toward a refrigerator. For most of human history, it sent your ancestors into an uncertain world where every day began with the question, what can we find before hunger finds us first? And the answer was rarely strength, rarely luck. More often, it was knowledge. The knowledge to see food where others saw nothing. The knowledge to adapt when circumstances changed. And the knowledge to keep looking when the landscape seemed empty. Because when there was nothing left to eat, survival belonged to the people who knew where to look next.